Take a deep breath, take the higher road. That's what they always say, as if they know the way. They won't take it from me. But don't ever doubt yourself, 'cause life ain't just a dream. You make your own, so kick and scream. The people will act with a never-ending force. You never had the chance, so what you waiting for? The day has come, my friend, 'cause this is war. It's time and this is war.
I grew up in East Boston, Massachusetts, a place where we took care of our own. And today I'm going to be bringing you a story that really hits home for me. Chad Connors grew up in my neighborhood. Danielle Morano, the woman fighting for his life, is someone I've known since we were kids. What's happening to them is not just a bureaucratic failure. It's a moral one. Behind the walls of a Massachusetts prison, Chad has been suffering, vomiting blood, gasping for air, covered in open sores. And yet the Department of Correction and their medical contractor, Vital Corps, have done almost nothing. 7 months of delay for basic diagnostics, denied medical parole, ignored pleas for help. This isn't just a story about one man. It's a story about a system that turns a blind eye to suffering, that hides behind policy and profit, and that forgot what it means to care for human beings. There is a sacred truth at the core of our profession, one that should never be lost. No matter where we work or who stands before us, every human being deserves care. As nurses and doctors, we took an oath, not to systems, not to profits, not to politics, but to humanity itself. Our duty does not end at the prison gate, nor is it contingent upon a person's past. Compassionate care isn't a privilege, it's a moral imperative. The measure of a society is revealed not in how it treats its most powerful, but in how it treats its most vulnerable. And few are more vulnerable than those who are sick, isolated, and forgotten behind bars. Chad Connors is not a statistic. He's a son, a friend, a human being who has suffered for years under the weight of medical neglect. His pain should stir something in every clinician's heart, because the suffering of even one patient under our watch is a stain on the integrity of our profession. We can't pick and choose whose lives are worthy of care. We are called to heal, to advocate, to alleviate suffering, no matter who the patient is or their past criminal history. That is what it means to practice medicine with conscience. And that is what it means to be a nurse. So today we're going to talk about the truth the system doesn't want you to hear, the human cost of indifference, and the courage of one woman's advocacy, and why it's time for nurses everywhere to stand up and demand compassionate care for all. I grew up with the people at the heart of this story, so this one is personal for me. And what I've uncovered will make you sick. You're listening to Nurses Out Loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. Before we get started today, I do want to encourage our listeners, if you have questions or comments, or perhaps you want to share your own experiences with what you're seeing on the front lines of healthcare, you can now submit those to us directly by visiting our website at nursesoutloud.com. We would love to hear from you. We encourage all of you to engage in the battle and find your voice in this fight. But until you are able to do that, we will continue to be that voice for you. Joining me today is someone I've known most of my life, a woman of fierce courage and unwavering conviction. Danielle Morano grew up in East Boston, and today she stands as one of the most relentless advocates I've ever seen. When her fiancé, Chad Connors, was denied medical care and left to deteriorate in the custody of the Massachusetts Department of Corrections, Danielle refused to stay silent. She's written letters, contacted legislators, documented every symptom and every failure of this system. not for recognition, but because she refuses to let another human being be forgotten. Danielle, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Kim.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you, and it's been a long time since we've had a chance to talk. To my listeners, if my Boston accent starts coming out as I talk to Danielle, don't be surprised.
Well, mine is thick as can be, so
Right,
hopefully everybody can understand me. But I'll try to use what I call my customer service voice, and this is what I do when I talk to people in authority. Because if I do let the East Boston in me out, it's not a good thing.
Right. I call it my nurse voice and my
Yeah,
now my
right.
nurse and my radio voice. But yeah, when you get a couple of us together, it can go real sideways real quick.
Yeah, but that's where we find our strength is where we come from, and
100%.
just where we lived gave us the strength that we have. And a little bit of a background for medical for me. I'm definitely not a nurse, and I thank you guys for everything that you do, because you guys, I would actually go to a nurse before I would go to a doctor for any kind of care. My daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 2. She's now 19. So I've heavily advocated for her, and I know, and I've seen firsthand just what she's been through with her struggle. So at one point, Chad and I were conversating a lot on the phone, and our conversations got more and more. And just out of nowhere, Kim, he would like hang up the phone, and he would say that it was like, oh, you must have got disconnected. And I'm like, yeah, well, we come from a generation when we did hang up the phone.
Right.
we had the busy signal and stuff. So I was like, no, there's something else. And just my loving, caring, my intuition kicked in.
Yeah.
And I said to him, Chad, what's going on with you? Like, are you using? Because, us being from East Boston, we all know who had a drug problem at one point. And we can get into that further after, because I have 5.5 years of recovery myself.
Yeah.
So, and now that I do have that recovery and the sobriety and the clear mind, I can't turn a blind eye to some of the stuff that not only have I experienced with Chad, heard firsthand with Chad, and then I see it documented, black and white writing, right from the source itself, and they turn a blind eye to it. They sat there and wrote it, and then they walk away from it. And I'm like, I don't understand it.
It's hard to fathom when you said, like, I mean, I first came across the story, right? So I was just on our Facebook, we're Facebook friends, on the news feed. I saw a series of these social media posts that you'd made. You're pleading for help, you're begging for engagement, like asking anyone who knew Chad to stand up and please speak out. And your words were they were so just raw. They were full of love for Chad. But you could hear the desperation in your pleas, because you could just feel
because there's power in numbers.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, like I said, and I say this to everybody, if you didn't hurt a child or an animal, you didn't hurt an innocent. And I think that there's just innocence in children and animals.
Yeah.
Other than that, you should be allowed, medical care. And we have all these advances, and we live in this state, and I'm in Boston, and we have the best hospitals in the world. That I see that stuff that's so, it's not minor, so I don't want to pass the stuff off, but his ailments are controllable and manageable to give him a quality of life,
Right.
and something so simple that they could do. And they don't. And it's not like, and we're not performing brain surgery here. God forbid if you ever needed that. I don't know what I would do, but it's like, it's like with my daughter's diabetes and something with asthma. People don't know the disease until they live the disease. And I've advocated for my daughter, even with her own doctors. And it's like, I appreciate your input, but we live with this disease, and it's completely different. Just like with parenthood, there's no definitive criteria. There's no definitive presentation from the diseases.
Right.
So yes,
everything's individualized, right? It's not all textbook.
It's not all textbook. Your textbook gives you your foundation. And without a good solid foundation, there's no house to live in. The same thing living with the disease. Yes, they have a solid foundation. They still, after 50 something, now 70, over 75 years of them knowing how to treat diabetes, they still don't know how it's caused. It's
Right.
75 years of all of this, all of these studies, and these statistics are out, and all of that other stuff. Like, the worst thing I think you can say to me is with Jane's diabetes, or even something like with Chad. Oh, he needs fresh air, and that's the best thing, and breathing exercises and all this other stuff. Yeah, well, they do need the help of medicine, you know,
Yeah.
and when something's not given to Chad, as far as that goes, they don't even give them fresh air. Kim, he's been out in the yard because they're constantly modified, which means there is not enough correction officers per inmate for them to be outside. So you know what you do, just like they did back in the day, like with Boston Public Schools. If they didn't have it, they would ask the parents to be like a lunch mother, so they had an extra body.
Yeah.
And I know that they're not going to do that because it's going to cost them money. The only time that they're not modified as a whole, they have more of the doctors on site on a holiday. Gee, let's find out why.
Mhm. Right. So they're not getting fresh air. And we've talked a little bit about the environmental conditions that he's in, that are in there. Like when, I reviewed these documents when I reached out to you when I saw your post. And I offered my platform because, this is exactly what Nurses Out Loud was built for, to give voice to the voiceless. And, if there's corruption and neglect to be exposed, I'm here for it. Wherever it hides, I
Yeah.
am here for it. We just have to remind the world that every human being deserves compassion and care. But you had shared with me, Danielle, an extensive trail of documentation. You shared letters to the Department of Correction, clinical details about, what's been going on with Chad, environmental reports, denials from the officials at the prison. And as a nurse, when I reviewed this information, I was absolutely shocked by what I saw, because
Yeah.
it's blatant disregard for a man's health,
Yep.
repeated
Yep.
delays in diagnostics. Let's talk about that real quick. The essential diagnostics, it's just been a complete failure of oversight by both the DOC and the contracted medical provider, who we will name as Vital Core Health Strategies.
Yes. And they're in other states, they
Yes.
don't just do private contract, and they're in court in other states for exactly what they're doing.
Mhm.
So they've only been with Department of Correction since May of 2024. So the Department of Correction obviously doesn't do their due diligence or any kind of investigative work. They take it for face value. Like, if I sit here and I say, look outside, the sky is green, and you believe me,
Yeah.
you're just as much of an a-hole as the
Right.
DOC is to the black and white. And this isn't stuff that I make up. This
Yeah.
isn't stuff that I fabricated like they have. And when I wrote a 25-page medical parole for him, that's exactly what the medical parole statute is in and was intended for.
Mhm.
It's someone that's being held in incarceration, and the Department of Correction is not able to provide the medical care that the inmate needs. If they pose no risk, which he's been incarcerated, Kim, unfortunately, for the last 20 years of his life.
Yeah.
And he has 3 tickets, which is basically like a speeding ticket, an infraction that we would receive out here. He has 3 of them in 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is not somebody that poses violence to Vital Core. They have any reason to feel like and fear of him, because there are situations that nurses in these environments, they are put in some
Sure.
crappy situations,
Yeah.
but that's not Chad's situation. He has a good rapport with a lot of people, not just inmates. He's not a convict. He's unfortunately a drug addict that's
Mhm.
incarcerated. He was a drug addict when the opiate pandemic came around. And that's when the Purdue farmer was still telling, FDA that in the government that, these are safe and non-addictive, medications that are provided, which we all know is
Right.
the biggest
Right.
like fabricated lie that, I mean, in the history of humanity. Basically, they knew just
Let's
what they
talk
were
about that.
doing.
Exactly. Let's talk about that for a minute, because if we want to go back, we grew up in East Boston. It, It was the kind of a tough place to grow up. It was full of, grit, but a lot of community. We had a good childhood. I think we had a great childhood growing up in East Boston. I won't say
Our
Indifference.
foundations were laid heavy on us,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and we had a sense of community.
Yep.
And instead of calling the cops on your next door neighbor because you heard something going on, you knocked on their door and asked them if they needed help or anything else.
Yes. Yes.
And the
Things
only
are
time you
much
call
different.
911 is for medical reasons. We didn't
Right.
do that. We were a community, and that's the
Exactly.
problem with, I think, with there's so much money in healthcare, and for them to put an inmate on medication that they don't need, and if not give them the medication that they do need, is just a moneymaker in itself,
Yeah.
and that's
But
what this all comes down to.
And I think the sad thing, is in our community, I can remember probably, we graduated, what, 90, well, I think I graduated a little bit before you, maybe I was in 95.
I'm a 97.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the late 90s, I feel like everything kind of started to change. That opioid epidemic really just it hit our neighborhood really hard, because I can remember
Fast and
those early
furious.
years. Yeah, those early years, the OxyContin first started flooding our streets.
Because we do have the best healthcare systems in the world. So of course we were the front line of those medications,
Yeah.
for cancer patients and stuff. And then you also get a lot of these kids that come from broken homes and they were looking for a way out. I didn't come from a broken home. My home didn't break until I was 33.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I still became an addict. So it's like, and that's kind of my point to these people too. It's like, don't think just because you're a commissioner or you're a doctor that somebody in your family is not suffering this way, and would you turn a blind eye to them? That's my thing,
Yeah.
and we all know they wouldn't, because it's like they don't put a stop sign or a traffic light at an intersection until somebody gets killed,
Right. Right.
you
You're
know,
you're
and it's like,
100% right. And
and
I
that's
think that,
why.
go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
No,
Go
I
ahead.
was just, I'm thinking about it, how it's very secular, right? It's very, I think, and I'm sure you probably agree with me that a lot of people that are filling these cells today in these jails, including Chad, are victims of a system just like this one that was designed to exploit pain for profit. So big pharma
Yep.
lights the match, right? The healthcare
Yep.
system, the justice system have been feeding the fire for years. And it's just, rounds and round we go. Um,
Yep.
but, how do you see that ripple
But
effect?
I'm gonna stop it. It's like, you said round and round we go. Where you stop, you'll never know. Well,
Yeah.
they're gonna stop at least doing this to Chad,
Yes.
and then part of his purpose and part of his drive for getting out is not just to help himself, but to help other guys that don't have somebody like me on the out. And they sent somebody in there, and I take this very seriously. There was a guy in there, and he was in there just like Chad for the wrong reasons. And he is a type 1 insulin dependent diabetic. Well,
Mm.
he did not get his insulin for 6 days. Okay.
Well,
Then, of course, because what happens, you go into DKA and it's like dealing with a drunk. I've done it with my child. I've had to step back from even disciplining her and say, is it her being a child pulling a temper tantrum, or is it something that she physically, mentally, emotionally cannot control because of her disease? And that's just what happened to him. After 6 days of not receiving the proper care, he flipped out, and we haven't heard or seen him since, which means he's in the DDU, which is solitary confinement. So there's people like that get sent to these. Now he's not even in like population. He's not, obviously not receiving probably any care. God forbid that this man is dead. It would break my heart, because I hold that close. And I suffered from asthma living in East Boston. I mean, we had the airplanes flying over us. We would look
yeah.
up with our mouths open, like, oh, little did we know we're inhaling all the
The jet
toxins.
fuel.
Yeah, now I get fresh air and I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel right, because I've been
Mhm.
in the city my entire life.
Yeah.
But I'm on this side of the wall. And that's why, like, and it's amazing because I do have the recovery, and I am pretty much the only person that had, or wants to admit that had a drug issue, a drug and alcohol issue. And I'm the healthiest one out of my family.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
You'd be lucky to have escaped, the epidemic that really tore through our neighborhood and our community. And I always say, there,
But that doesn't
by
make
the
me
grace
any
of God, there
better
go
of
I,
an
because that could have
addict.
just as easily been me. you
Yep,
know?
exactly. And that's why when I drive down Massacas, my heart pours out where people are making fun of
Yeah.
him. I'm like, don't you dare, because that could easily be me. I
Yeah.
could easily be that peddling. You can never say, you can never say never. You can always say I never want to. It's like
Yeah.
I can never sit here and say I'm never going to pick up a drink again, or sit here and say I'm never going to use a drug again. My
Right.
drug of choice was cocaine. I thankfully did not have a tolerance for opiates.
Yeah.
My body didn't like them, you know. But but I can sit here and say I never want to. That's where I
Right.
can use that word. And
Yes.
and that's the thing. Chad has displayed all of these changes, and it's all self-help. There's not even other programs for them. It's like, where's the justice in the justice system, and where's the correction in the correctional facility? They do nothing. And then on
Right.
top of it,
Right.
you're going
Where's
to
the
keep it in a place that,
rehabilitation that's
but
going to look
but
at
Kim, think
reducing
about this.
recidivism?
Yeah, but think about this. They care so much about their COs and their nurses that work in there. Imagine that they're exposed to the same thing that these inmates are being exposed to. So
Right.
not only are you putting inmates in harm's way, what about the little kid that's going up on a Saturday afternoon to visit his father? And the mother's not going to look. Who they're thinking of having a relationship between the father and the son, not realizing this building's killing your kid, or they have a
Mhm.
kid that's having all these issues and they can't figure out where it's coming from. They don't even know that it's probably because he's going to visit his father on Saturday afternoon
Yeah.
and spending 2 hours in an environment that doesn't even have architecturally doesn't have an open window.
Well, and you've described some pretty horrific living conditions, and yeah, so like you're saying that people are actually coming in there. I mean, the building should probably be condemned with what we're black
And it's only been
mold.
open since the early 90s, but
Yeah,
it's never been rectified. And anything that's not rectified only gets worse.
correct. Right. So we're dealing with black mold, a rodent infestation, filthy air ducts, and all of these things can worsen chronic
Poor
illnesses like
sewage,
asthma,
poor sewage.
poor sewage. Yeah. So there's all
So
kinds
I mean,
of
they're drinking water. They have to buy bottled water, and they're only allowed $55 a week of their own canteen money. So
wow.
if they're buying bottled water, they have other things that they need to buy, like food, because
Yeah.
their food prep areas are contaminated with molds. Their
Oh, I
food
don't
prep
doubt it.
areas. So do you want? I mean, these inmates know this, and like Chad has this aspiration on his lower leg. Not only does it painful, not only is it swelling, but he's got lesions on it. That to anybody that's of any kind of,
Yeah. He's got
I don't know,
some
I don't
poor
even know how to
venous
explain it,
insufficiency,
would
it sounds
know
like.
that's poor circulation.
Yeah.
And it's just and there's so many diseases that cause that, because what happens with your body, and this is just a layman term, this is just from me, like I do have a lot of knowledge, but you being a nurse, you'll understand this. What
Mhm.
happens when your body is trying to help and heal itself is it's only going to take care of its core. You can live without your
Yeah.
fingers, you can live without your toes, you can't live without your lungs.
Correct. All
So
the blood
everything's
gets shunted up to your vital organs and it does not go down
exactly,
to your
it's going to start
periphery.
taking care of its core. And that right there, to any medical person, any person, even if they're on day one, it's like healthcare medical 101.
Yeah.
You're not getting oxygen, the rest of everything else is going to shut down. So
Right.
why don't they look at that? All right, you don't want to go to a specialist, which we're trying to advocate to get a specialist up there, because I know somebody on this side of the wall would look at that and say it's disgusting.
Yeah. And you said so it's been seven, is that when his symptoms started 7 months ago
No, it's long
or
before
longer than
that, but
that? Okay.
I don't want to inundate them with too much information, because they can't even handle the information that they've given me just from the past year.
Right.
I have medical documentation from when they were with WellPath. WellPath was just as bad as Vital Force. So you went from bad to worse,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and it's these doctors that can't make it at MGH. So they go into the private sector. And that's where they're protected for their ignorance and for their non-knowledge.
Mhm.
Or some of these doctors probably have cases against them, and they're being protected in the Vital Core strategy.
Yeah, well, when you think about it, you're getting into this system, you're dealing with inmates. There's not probably going to be a whole lot of pushback, right? There's not going to be a lot
Yeah,
of
because
Danielles
half of
out
the
there.
inmates aren't educated either. They don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. They don't realize what's going on.
And it's not even just a prison anymore. They're not just convicts. It's now a mental health institution as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No,
that's who they
no
take
doubt.
care of is the mental health. And gee, let's figure out why, because of the almighty dollar. The
Mhm.
more pharma they use, the more pharmaceutical medications they use, the more money that they make, and the more that they're gonna keep somebody like Chad. Chad's not on any kind of medication like that. He's on just like life-saving medication. They can't even get them vitamin B12.
Oh my
The
gosh.
pharmacy keeps saying it's out of stock. Oh, Jeepers creepers. Everything is in stock.
Right.
We're not in a recession right now, and stuff's not hard to get. They want to sell you those vitamins. Like my daughter, my other daughter, my oldest daughter has celiac disease. You know
Mhm.
what you know how much it costs just to buy her a loaf of bread because it's
Oh
popular
yeah.
now. It's that. So I mean, I understand. We you all need money to survive. We understand that. But to take money off of somebody else's neglect and somebody else literally dying, like dying.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about breaking the law. You're committing capital murder
Yeah.
and
It's
getting
really
away with it
sad to
because of your
hear.
position.
Yeah, and it's sad to hear that like he's been going through this for a long time. He's had the nausea, the vomiting. He's vomiting blood, which can be indicative of so many, really dangerous systemic
I personally think he
illnesses.
needs his gallbladder taken out.
And that could very well be. And if they would just do a diagnostic
Yep.
scan, but there's so many things that could be. And they really need to start doing some diagnostics to rule out. But, all of these months later, he still hasn't had any scopes done. Is that right?
Nothing. He hasn't seen a
Wow.
gastroenterologist at all. All these are a basic medical. They're just like basic mechanics. You go into them, you tell them what you have, and what they're like a PCP. They
Yeah.
they 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 evaluate it and they say, okay, well, I have a specialist for that. Like, oh, my heart hurts all the time. Okay, you're gonna see a cardiologist. Your PCP is not gonna put their hands on it because they're not 100% sure of how to help you. So they refer you to another person that can. And that's what Vital Core is lacking. They keep saying plan of something by provider. I don't know their exact words because at this point, the way that they're medical, I can pull up 1 month of his medical and find 6 contradictions within their own medical documentation.
Yeah, I mean,
How
the
do you even do?
documents you provided have been amazing because it really does spell everything out in black and white. And you can see the pattern of neglect. It was really disturbing for me as a nurse to read it, to see everything
He
that
kind of can
he
get
is
his weight
suffering through.
right.
Wow. Wow. I'll tell you what, Danielle, we're up against a break, but when we come back, we're going to dig a little bit more into this really disturbing story.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks again, Kim.
You're welcome.
All right.
America Out Loud Talk Radio plays on the iHeartRadio network. You can also listen on our media player from any web browser anywhere in the world. We have the best in-class apps available on Apple, Android, or Alexa 24/7. Great talk radio. All of our shows go to podcast the following day. You can hear them on apps such as Spotify, Stitcher, Pandora, iHeart Podcasts, and many more. Be sure to subscribe and rate the show on Apple Podcasts for me. Don't forget to check out our online store at americaoutloud.shop, where you can find all of the products that we represent on our network at a discounted rate, including an incredible line of products from Chemical Free Body. Unlike the majority of supplements you'll find on the market today, with Chemical Free Body, you won't have to worry about harmful ingredients, binders, fillers, or flow agents. Their ultra-safe breakthrough nanosilver technology destroys pathogens, balances the microbiome, and boosts immunity. All of these products are proudly made in the USA and are backed by an unheard of double your money back guarantee. I've made a twice daily Green 85 drink part of my routine, which has led to a decrease in belly bloat and an increase in my energy throughout the day. Use promo code OUTLOUD to save 20% off the Healthy Gut Bundle. I'll catch you on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
Feeling run down, foggy, or constantly drained? Your body might be lacking the support it needs at the cellular level. Recharge from the Wellness Company is a doctor-formulated supplement designed to restore your energy, focus, and immune function. It features the first ever combination of methylene blue and urolithin A, clinically studied ingredients that support mitochondrial health, boost cellular repair, and enhance cognitive performance. With added NAD3, CoQ10, and PQQ, Recharge is the daily solution for deep, lasting energy not just a temporary boost. Visit twc.health/OUTLOUD and use code OUTLOUD for 20% off your first order. Power up your body and mind with Recharge.
Oral hygiene hasn't changed in 50 years. Brush, floss, repeat. We're told to use fluoride, which doesn't really address the acid-creating bacteria. That is where the dentist-recommended Spry Dental Defense System shines. Spry products contain xylitol, a natural sugar which helps get rid of those nasty, smelly acid-creating bacteria in our mouth. The best way to care for your teeth and gums is by using Spry. The Spry Dental Defense System has a wide variety of products: toothpaste, mouthwash, mints, and chewing gums that are designed to work together to keep your teeth clean and mouth healthy and smelling sweet all day long. To get your oral care back on track in an easy, effective, and very tasty way, switch to Spry today. Ask your dentist about xylitol and the Spry products. Spry can be found online and at all fine natural product retailers.
During COVID, we got educated on the power of natural virus protection and immune boosting using vitamins A, C, D, zinc, and quercetin. The problem? Getting them at the right dosage from truly natural sources that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. Enter the Daily V-Stack. Using breakthrough cellular absorption technology, we put those vitamins together and supercharge them with a complete multi-mineral complex. The Daily V-Stack is basically an oral IV of 6 products, all in one at an affordable price. Go to chemicalfreebody.com/outloud today. Get the Daily V-Stack, protect yourself, boost your immune system, and save 20% on your first order.
Have you been looking for a healthy snack for on the go, but all the energy and protein bars are just too sweet and full of sugar, preservatives, and mystery ingredients? Well, not all energy bars are soft and sugary. Bear Bars are a crunchy, savory bar made from just 6 simple, natural ingredients. They're plant-based, organic, packed with protein and nutrients, and are low-temp dried for a unique crunch. Most energy bars are based on chocolate or fruit and are held together with syrups and sweeteners, but Bear Bars are a delicious combination of veggies, nuts, and seeds. They're a perfect fast snack for hikes, workouts, and busy moms and dads. To learn more, just visit bearbar.com/outloud and get the exclusive discount just for America Out Loud listeners. That's BEARBAR.com/outloud.
Hi, I'm Dr. James Bragman, board certified EO in internal and geriatric medicine. Do you or someone you know suffer from airborne allergies due to pollen, pet dander, and other particles, which aggravate and irritate the sensitive nasal passages? Are you tired of the side effects of common allergy products, such as drowsiness, feeling lethargic, and dry nose? Well, now there's Cofix RX. This revolutionary product stops airborne allergy symptoms, all while avoiding the side effects of the usual allergy remedies. Shake, spray, and cleanse away your allergy issues with Cofix RX. Click on the Cofix RX banner ad in the American Out Loud shop for 20% off your next order of Cofix RX.
Prepare for the next pandemic with the Wellness Company's Contagion Emergency Kit, designed by Dr. Peter McCullough. Get life-saving medications like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, plus a free nebulizer and a guidebook for safe use. Order now by going to twc.health/outloud and use code OUTLOUD for $65 off your first order plus free shipping.
Only when the government bows to the people will America become great again. This is Malcolm Out Loud here. Join me in pushing back against censorship, my fellow Americans. Right at the top of AmericaOutloud.news are the words: many voices, one freedom, united in the First Amendment. Now is our time, my fellow Americans. AmericaOutloud.news. Liberty and justice for all.
Welcome back to Nurses Out Loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. Wherever you're listening from today and whatever you're doing, I thank you for giving me the gift of your time. Be sure to make AmericaOutloud.news your daily stop for all the latest news and happenings. We all must do our part and share the stories, the articles, the podcasts, and videos so we can help secure America's future. If you're just joining us, I've been talking with Danielle Morano, an absolute warrior and advocate for compassionate care and basic human rights. Let's jump right back in. Danielle, thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me, Kim. Your platform is amazing, and I really, really appreciate excuse me, I really, really appreciate you taking the time. And I know this is something that you're passionate about. And
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and for somebody else to feel the pain that I feel by seeing what I see, I'm willing to share just about anything with just about anybody who shows me the same compassion and care. So
Yeah.
if we could, I am on social media, Facebook. There's two Danielle Moranos. They're both my picture. But the prettier one is me now. I'm joking, but
You've always
if
been
anybody,
beautiful, Danielle.
thank you. I wasn't always beautiful on the outside because of my history with drugs and alcohol. It's almost like I have the Benjamin Button, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well, we'll make sure that we link to your social
yes,
media
and that's what I was going to
on the
say.
show notes. Yeah.
Anybody that's willing to help, all walks of life. I pass no judgment on anybody. We all have a story to tell, and I'm not just willing to help Chad. I'm willing to help anybody that needs it. That's just it's part of my calling. It's part of my purpose because I do have a great mind and I do have a direct link to somebody that suffers from a disease that she, I, not that it makes a difference, but I didn't do anything while I was pregnant for my child, both of my children to have their diseases, which makes it all the more for me to have this drive. And the same thing with Chad. It's not something that he's done to himself that he has this disease because people do that. They're like, oh, well, they did it to themselves. And again, regardless, no matter what the circumstances are, the fact of the matter is somebody's suffering. And the more people that know about it, it's going to fall on the right ears and it's going to fall on the right person's desk. And I am going to get to that person that does something. And until then, I won't stop.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't silence me, because and sometimes I have to silence myself though, because I can run with it and I get so compassionate. And that's why I wouldn't be a good lawyer. Because I start doing and saying things and I start getting hostile because when I feel like I'm not being heard, that's when, irritated. And imagine how Chad feels when he was telling these people that are supposed to help him. These are doctors, these are nurses. Like you said, you guys took an oath. Where is that oath for them? Where did it go?
Right.
I think they need it like to be sent to them or engraved somewhere.
Yeah, some of them don't even understand like the oath that they swore to uphold. And that's to me is just the most disturbing part. But you can see and you can hear and feel the exhaustion of yourself and of Chad because you've just really been literally screaming into the void, trying to save a life
But I
inside
still
the
won't stop. If
system.
they're going to turn their ears and eyes off, well, then I'm going to move on to the next. But I don't start at the lower level. I go right to the top, right to where it counts, right to where it should count, right to these people that have this power. And some of these are our elected officials, and I have to reach back out to them because I am going to be that person that's going to pull every time you say no to me. I'm going to find the yes and the no because your no wasn't warranted.
Right.
I'm not fighting for just my boyfriend to be out. I'm fighting for a human life, and he's one. And that human life can pay it forward and save another human life. The domino effect that could take place here, and there's so many people's lives that can be changed just by me starting this. Chad being afforded the healthcare that he deserves. It might give somebody else the drive and the ambition and the willpower because I find it deep within. It's part of my purpose. And I know that. And that's why I give it away. And that's why I do what I do. I want nothing in return. I want no notoriety for this at all. The only thing I want is Chad to be healthy.
Yeah.
And then he can take the rest of his life from there. I'm not going to show him. I can show him the way because he's been incarcerated for so long. There are going to be things that he needs to learn, but he's going to know and feel the love of the community that's come around him because of this. And it's like we have other convicts and these are other men. And they're like, Chad, we got you. We love you. And these are supposed to be hardcore, like, tough guys and stuff. And I get them on the phone and they start talking to me and they start hearing what's going on. And I could feel their pain for what he's going through. So that's how severe his situation is. It's not someone that just can't breathe, having an asthma attack.
Right.
Just this past Saturday, I knew something was wrong. I called that facility all day long. And by the time I got the fifth, oh, we're watching the video surveillance. He's relaxing in his cell. I flipped out and I used vulgar language. I was like, no, the F he's not. because if he was in his cell relaxing, he would be on the phone with me because Kim, I have the time right now because I take care of my mom. She's 65 years old. She's had MS for 40 years. And I didn't watch the last 40 years of my life, watch my mother fight this disease for it to turn around and just take her for something that I can step into and help her manage and handle in her older years. She's 40 years into a disease and she's still got the fight in her. Yeah. So I take care of many medical people. So, it, like I said, it's part of my purpose. And because I do have my health I want to give to others. I want to be that person, and like I said, I want no notoriety for this. The only thing that will ever stop me is when everybody's, safe and sound. And that probably won't ever be, not in my lifetime.
Yeah.
But if I can help one person,
yeah, and that's the thing, Danielle. When you step up and you elevate your voice, you're not just elevating your voice for Chad, but for so many other people. And I felt really similar when I started speaking up, when I started Nurse Freedom Network, when I saw all of these nurses getting fired, for not wanting to take the vaccine. And I didn't want to take the vaccine and nobody was saying anything. And, I spoke up. Just my only hope was that I would inspire or encourage one more nurse to know that it was okay to stand up and say something.
Yep. And look what you've done.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. And like I said, there's power in numbers.
Oh, absolutely. And that was my whole goal with Nurse Freedom Network. It was interesting because when I first started my organization, which I have several now, but I started Nurse Freedom Network, and my whole thing was like, okay, I've got the platform. Now the nurses are going to come. They're all going to come,
Yeah, if you build it, they will come. Exactly.
They really didn't. Awesome. They really didn't. So there was
your knowledge and you knowing, because there's something that you have as a nurse. And I think there's something that you have as being a good parent or somebody in my position. You have this instinct that what you're doing is right and you keep going with it. And like I said, you got to that right nurse that opened up a doorway. She was a power of example for other nurses. And when she started getting on board with you, they started getting on board with you. And it was just a domino effect. And I'm hoping that this is what happens, with this situation. And like I said, yes, of course, I want Chad home. Absolutely, 1000%. But it doesn't stop with him. Yeah. It started with him. It's not going to stop with him. Part of what we have planned when he comes home is for him to help the next person because he sees what goes on in there. And he does have such a good rapport because Chad has something that a lot of people lack. And it's empathy.
Mm-hmm. Chad's always been he's a good kid. I remember him. I didn't know Chad well, but he is a
funny kid. You want to talk about, producing endorphins. Sometimes I'm like, you have to stop because my sides, I'm like, I don't even have to go to the gym. You know what I mean? I'm going to get a 6-pack just being on the phone. But our dynamic is just like that. And that's another thing. It's like he is so strong-willed. And I know just his will to want to live a life that he's never had before is what kept it going. But how long can your will have you survived? He needs medical intervention, and he's absolutely 1000% never, ever going to be afforded that from the Department of Correction. We call it the Department of Corruption.
Yeah. That's perfect. That's actually perfect. But, so you're seeking justice, not just for Chad, but you're also, again, you're seeking legislative reform. I know that you've written to Senator Liz Miranda. You've written to DOC leadership. I believe you wrote to the governor's office. What are you wanting lawmakers to do right now? So not just for Chad, but for every person that's being failed by this system, what do you think is the next step for them?
The taxpayer dollar that's getting wasted. So the taxpayers that are out there busting their hump to pay their taxes, somebody's charging the state of Massachusetts and saying that they've rendered this service, like VitalCore rendered this service to Chad. They're saying that they did a medical assessment on August 6th of 2025. They've even cited 2 of their clinicians as being on this assessment. The only thing, and I know this because I was on the phone with him, so not even just hearing it from the inmate, but the only thing medically documented in his medical records that they've given to me, they provided to me on August 6th of 2025 is a medical sick slip for just what Chad goes through. He submits a sick slip every day. He's only been seen by the provider one time in the last month.
Wow. And this isn't just, we're not talking about like a clerical error here, a single
No,
misappointment or anything like that. Like this is systemic neglect, and it's deliberate
it's fraud.
indifference.
It's fraud against the state of Massachusetts and the
Oh yeah,
taxpayers that
yeah,
pay their taxes. I mean, unfortunately, right now, because of the nature of what I do for my family, I'm not a taxpayer, but I was at one point, and I
yeah,
could not imagine how I would feel right now if I came home from work to put my feet up that are swollen. Some people, they really shovel shit against the tide,
yeah.
and to sit here and watch this money being, drained, literally drained from the system, and the DOC is right on board with it. They're just they should be just as held accountable. Like when I wrote to Senator Miranda, I asked her for three things. One of them is because of her position, she should be going to her higher ups saying, "Look what we've uncovered for Vital Core," because the community represented you to represent us. You have a duty now. Now that I brought this to your attention, something, even if it's not just Chad being released, even if it's an investigative thing put on Vital Core, because other states have done it. And in Massachusetts, we have the oldest laws, and our laws are so unique that they still hold bearing on today's society. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the fact that they have this power, and our power is so well footed for that. We don't have to go by federal guideline because we're a Commonwealth. There's only 6 in the entire country, and we're one of them, and we're the oldest one.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes other states, it's like, it's like the whole football team looks to the quarterback for advice because he's the strongest one and he's the team leader. Massachusetts needs to do that as well, because we are looked at for a lot of things that we do, like healthcare, a lot of other facilities. I used to work at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. I worked in the biostatistics and computational biology department. I wrote grants for research. I did not do the science part of it, but I wrote for budgets. And I used to go down to the National Institute of Health and sit on review boards to make sure that other facilities were making sure that they weren't asking for too much, but also making sure that they were getting the proper amount of money to do what they said that they wanted to do. And they used to get to the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute and the Partners Healthcare System, and they used to look to them for guidance. So we do have the medical capability of somebody like Chad living a good, healthy lifestyle and having all these medical things afforded to him. And the DOC, literally, it's like dropping a brick in front of them. They're just building a wall.
There's no reason, and like as you said, in the state of Massachusetts, that is very advanced, and we have some of the best healthcare, if we want to call it
Take
healthcare,
a ride down
but they have the resources, is where I'm going with this.
All of those, you have all those pharmaceutical companies. They're all in there. There's a ton of scientists that come from all over the world to study in this state. So for Chad to not be able to get just basic life, just basic medical care, because it's not basic. I don't want to say that, because what they're doing, he's probably going to need more extensive medical care than he would if they just released them, but there are so many availabilities that are being held from him because of the and Vital Core. It's like, you being a doctor, I don't know, I wouldn't want the money. I would want the notoriety for saving someone's life. I've been in situations here out here, just in the 5 years of my sobriety, I've come across 7 people that were dying in front of me, and I took action on it. I didn't pick up my phone and record them. I picked up the phone, dialed 911, put the phone down, and helped them. That's what I did.
Yeah.
That's the right thing to do, and that's exactly like, it's just amazing to me. You see how I stumble? I get a loss for words because there's so much indifference, and it's almost a personal bias. It's like,
because they're as inmates, they're just kind of cast aside, and
the gorilla that is getting fed better and taken care of better. And I love animals. I have animals. I had my dog just passed on me in June. She was 15 years old in a rescue.
Yeah.
So my level of care for somebody or something that's alive and flourishing. That's why I don't like flowers. You take something beautiful out of the ground and you cut it and kill it and give it to me. No, thank you.
Yeah. Leave it alone. Let it flourish.
Appreciation for life. And it's like, time is one of our most precious resources, and something in the time that Chad has is minimal because of their neglect. And that's
Right.
just not.
And that's what bothers me the most, I feel like, because obviously, when you start having symptoms, those are little warning signs that there's already something festering inside the body. So these are things that have been left to linger for a long time. So,
And then you put a structural environment that's killing him
right,
as well. I mean,
right,
you're inundating him with poison. I mean, you might as well just give him give him the juice.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And unfortunately, Chad was at the point, and I hate to say this, it breaks my heart, where he was thinking, because of his medical neglect and because of where he was and the exhaustion that he had, trying to advocate for himself, he was at the point where he was going to take his own life. Imagine
yeah,
a medical that their vital cord, they're vital. The only thing vital about you, I mean, I could go on about that, but that's for another time. You know, there's you were making somebody think about taking their own life because you were taking care of their life, and that's what you're supposed to do.
right.
It's an abomination, if you ask me. And the fact that I do have the knowledge that I have, that everybody's going to know about it, and I'm not a gossiper. If it
Yeah.
doesn't directly affect me or my family, I tend to keep my mouth shut. I don't go around. I'm not a thumb thug either. I don't sit behind, the computer and pass judgment on anybody, because the only one for me that can pass judgment on anybody is the good Lord himself. And he's the
Amen.
only one that has your judgment day. This should not be left to an this to me is like, the way that they're handling things is just the same as like a dictatorship. You have
Yeah.
somebody in the upper, and they fear them for their jobs. It's like all of them belong right now in the unemployment line. And it's sad because none of them have any life skills. So because of your incompetence, you're going to make somebody else suffer because you're incompetent. But who is this? The Assistant Deputy Commissioner of Clinical Services. His name's Jeffrey Fisher. And I'm putting that out there because you can go on mass.gov and search all of this. It's all public knowledge. I don't know somebody who knows somebody who gave me this information. You know what I mean? What gives him the right medically? He's not a doctor.
Right. Right. Exactly. He's not a doctor. And, unfortunately,
And he's listening to doctors that are just that are doing the negligence. They're
mhm,
not seeking outside or second opinion. It's like when you go to the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, even though they're world renowned for cancer studies, you're going to get a second opinion.
yeah,
You're not just going to take one person's word for it. You're going to
right.
make sure that what they're saying to you is what they're saying to you is, and that you are getting the best care. You're not just going to take somebody's word for it. And if you do, then I think you need somebody to advocate for you as well. You always have to get a second opinion.
Always.
It's
Always.
like going to the mall. You take two girlfriends. One says that you look good and the other one just gives you the look. It's like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah. I
Always
always
get
say get a second opinion and get yourself an advocate. I cannot stress
Yep.
that enough. And don't wait for the medical emergency to arise. Please get yourself an advocate. I say this all the time, whether it's my organization or another organization. Have an advocacy plan in place. Have somebody who has the knowledge and the wherewithal to fight for you. And it's really difficult when it's your loved one, it can be very difficult to advocate. Even those who are awake, aware, and knowledgeable, it is very difficult when you're not able to remove that emotional component outside of it. Um,
And I think I've done a very good job of that, writing these. I've
yeah.
been a little stern, a little bit nasty, but I think in an educated way.
Oh, your
I
stuff, your letters are fantastic. And I myself, as a nurse, will be writing a letter after this information that I have reviewed, all of, Chad's medical history, all of the things that he's going through and all of the conditions and the things that have been happening. I am working on writing a letter on Chad's behalf that I will write in my professional capacity as a nurse, as the founder of Remnant Healthcare. I will be sending that letter to the Department of Corrections in Massachusetts, also to Vital Care Health Strategy, Vital Core Health Strategies, to ensure that,
yeah,
this is not happening inside of a vacuum. The world is watching. We see what you're doing, and you're not going to get away with it.
exactly. Exactly. And that's the thing is they become complacent. And I've actually said that to them, that how complacent they've become, and they feel like they're untouchable. And for some reason, a lot of people hear the Department of Correction and they're afraid. Well, guess what? They have no bearing over my everyday life. They are not going to intimidate me.
Exactly.
And I've said that to them too. And I have 2 letters that are side by side right now. One was written in when this all started, because I had written to also Senator Jamie Eldridge, and I wrote to Senator Lydia Edwards. They all do civil rights stuff. I actually filed for in the United States Department of Justice for Civil Rights Division, because his civil rights, his ADA rights alone, because what he's going through deems him disabled. So,
right. This is an ADA issue for sure. And this is definitely discrimination, because they're not able to reasonably accommodate. They're not even making an effort to reasonably accommodate his medical condition, which does qualify as a disability under the ADA. So I would definitely implore you to look into getting an ADA advocate involved as well. I cannot believe it, Danielle. We are out of time. I hate that. It goes by so quickly.
That's okay. Like I said, but he's willing to help. They can always reach out, and I can definitely sit with them and talk, because that's what I have to do for Chad, is give him the time that he needs that nobody else has. So thank you again, Kim. I really appreciate this.
You're so welcome. And I will make sure that we include links to your social media in the show notes that will accompany this episode when it does go to podcast. And we'll, to learn more about this really disturbing case. I mean, it's so much more and so much deeper than we can even get into on air. There's a lot of stuff behind it, but I want you to stay tuned. Subscribe to my Substack. It's nursefreedomnetwork.substack.com, where you can read my full expose that is coming soon. That is going to share Chad's story. And I want all of you to share Chad's story and stand with us as we call for compassion, accountability, and justice for every human being, no matter their circumstance. And that is all the time that we have for today, friends. But remember, we are here on the air 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, with a different nurse host daily. You can also catch the encore at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please be sure to tune in and listen to myself and these courageous nurses. As we walk you through all of these hot topics, we will empower you with information and education. We will advocate and we will stand in the gap for you, because we are nurses and this is what we do. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton, and you can find me here every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Until next time, be safe, be well, and God bless. Remember, we are in a war for truth. We're putting out a bounty on the real misinformation and exposing the purveyors of propaganda. No topic is off limits as we shine our lights and expose the darkness.
It's time and